Chaff. Coming up this week, I love the art and the vibe of this card. It's so good.
He's the first official furry in Magic.
I mean, let's not bury the lead here. We know what people actually want to do with black-green, right?
Yes,
they want to spawn some spiders. What's up, aficionados? Welcome back to another episode of Draft Chaff. This is episode 222. Is that a lucky number? Is that an angel number?
It can be. There
Perhaps
are angels in Innistrad.
Archangel number. We are chatting all things Innistrad Remastered today. And the question is, should we? Should we be? Do we care about the set? And we say this as people who, love Magic, and personally, I love Innistrad. It's one of my favorite planes, if not my favorite plane. But I'm not going to lie, I don't really understand why this set exists.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Innistrad's probably one of the most famous, like next to Ravnica and Dominaria, obviously, for Magic. Yeah. And I don't know, I just looked at this set review, and this set's coming out in 4 days, and I'm like, am I excited for this? It's not coming to Arena. It's a remastered set, so it's a little pricier. It's a premium set. Mm-hmm. And the reprints aren't really hitting as much as the last two remastered sets. So I guess we'll see. We'll go over it briefly, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would be interested to do maybe an RCQ in this format. If stores are allowed to host that could be cool. But I think you said Aether Drift is coming out in a month earlier.
Yeah,
right?
I think we have 3 weeks till pre-release. It's February 7th. We're recording this on January 15th. Yeah, it's around the corner, man.
Wow. I mean, I haven't even begun to address that set yet. That set's going to take some getting used to, I think. I was able to bite into the sort of modern horror elements of Duskmourn pretty easily, but I could definitely see how literal race cars are going to be a little tougher.
Well, it's like they slow fed us. We went from, detectives to cowboys to modern technology, and now we have wacky racers coming. So it's been an interesting year for Magic.
And it's only going to get more interesting. Did you hear that they might have an Avatar: The Last Airbender set?
All right, so we spent last week's episode complaining about Universes Beyond, but
we did.
I would love an Avatar set.
Okay. So here's the thing, and this is getting off topic. We're
already way off topic.
Let's put a pin. As always, Discord is the best place to talk about all this nonsense with us. Hop in there, chat with us. Let us know what you think about all this. Do you care about Innistrad Remastered? Are you going to the pre-release/release event? Are there any RCQs being hosted in your area for this? The fact that it's not on Arena, I feel really alienates a lot of the player base for this one, right?
No, I definitely agree. And we had Shadows over Innistrad, a remastered set for Innistrad on Arena, last year or two.
That was a fun set.
It was a fun set, yeah. So it's it's interesting. So we'll see.
Patrons, as always, thank you so much. You're the best. We love you. If you're interested in supporting the show on Patreon, hop on over. Whole bunch of different tiers. I've been making sure that the raw episode file just gets posted straight to Patreon right away. So if you want to listen to our unedited, all nonsense, unbleeped, the pre-show this week, you can see some ways that I've been trolling some of my students, which
it's a good teacher.
I hope they like having purple homework. It's all purple. Anyway. Yeah. So while we start talking about Innistrad Remastered, let's pull up this crack a draft type thing real quick. And this set has cards that we all know and love, right? A lot of these we don't need to read every word, but some of these I think we actually do. Do you remember every word on Ghoulish Procession from the recent set? This was one of the black and uncommon. Whenever one of more non-token creatures dies, you make a 2/2 black zombie and it's decayed. So it has that thing where it gets to attack once and then it dies. And it can't block.
It's not a bad card. Pretty decent, especially in the sacrifice outlets.
Yeah, I see this is awesome in the sack decks. If you just want bodies whenever your thing dies, and a 2/2, sometimes that has relevance, sacking a thing with extra power to put a certain number of counters on something or that kind of thing. A Lunarch Veteran. This is a great Magic card. It's a Soul Sister for your creatures, but then it has Disturb, and it comes back as 1/1 flyer. Yeah, this was one of the best cards in that set, at common and white.
Yeah, definitely. Like I love the Disturb because it's kind of like a 2-for-1 for a lot of your cards. You're going to get twice the value out of your creatures, and yeah, especially being this cheap. I don't know how great life gain is in this, but I don't know if it's really a true archetype, but still a great
Probably
card.
not, right?
No, I don't think so.
Spontaneous Mutation. This one I think has shown up a couple times. It's blue for an aura. It's got flash. Enchanted creature gets -X/-O, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. It's Innistrad. You're doing flashback stuff. You're dumping self-mill. You're trying to return zombies to your hand. This card, let's say it's -5/-O. That's like a pretty good combat trick, and sometimes it just fully blanks a creature.
Yeah.
It's not Swords to Plowshares, but sometimes it's kind of close.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sticks on the creature. Yeah, great for 1 mana. We had a lot of iterations of this card before, some that like mill you for it, but this is nice and classic.
It's also an aura that can sometimes go to a graveyard. Like if you put this on their creature when it was about to trade with yours, and then it dies, then this goes to a graveyard and it adds a type for Delirium.
Sure. Yep.
Speaking of 1 mana removal spells, we probably should. I mean, this next one is just so much better. Tragic Slip. Black. A creature gets -1/-1, or Morbid. If something has already died this turn, it gets -13/-13 instead. Classic Innistrad card.
Oh, 100%. And everything dies on Innistrad, so you're pretty much always going to hit that Morbid to get that -13/-13. So, yeah, it's basically a Swords to Plowshare.
Yeah, honestly, it kills indestructible things. It may as well be, right?
It's true, yeah.
It's not hard to turn this card on.
No.
Apothecary Geist. 3 and a white, 2/3 flyer. When it ETBs, if you have another spirit, you gain 3 life. I feel like this one, it might have shown up a couple times. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the rate nowadays isn't too great. That's what you're going to see with some of these remastered sets. You get some older cards that feel kind of out of place in modern Magic, but...
Yeah, I feel like you could do a little better for 4 mana. Like in Foundations, we had a 4 mana 3/3 flyer, and it had a life gain payoff.
Yep.
This is a little less impressive.
Definitely.
How about an all-timer in the pack? A Faithless Looting? Sweet.
I was pumped when I saw this in the set. I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, Faithless Looting, red, you draw 2, discard 2. This isn't even card parity because you spend a card for the ability to draw 2, then lose 2. So you are down a card in this exchange, but you can flash it back from your graveyard where you draw 2, then discard 2 again. So when you cast it from your graveyard, it's kind of free. I don't know. It ends up being a good rate overall, especially if you cast both halves, or if you self-mill this, or discard it, or, I don't know, rummage it, or discard it to a blood token. Or this card is great in Reanimator and Delirium. It's sort of one of those, it plays every role in the red decks.
Great Madness, too. It's cheap Madness activation. Yep, fix your hand.
Yeah. So probably going to be a pretty important card for the format, I would guess.
Definitely,
right?
Yeah.
Well, here's a safe pick, Evolving Wilds.
Classic, can't go wrong.
Yeah. Festerhide Boar is next. 3 and a green. I don't know if I know this one. It's a 3 and a green, 3/3 with trample at common. And it enters a 2/1/1 counters if a creature died this turn. That's a Morbid ability. That seems fine.
Not bad. Yeah. I mean, 5 mana or a 4 mana 5/5 with trample. It's fine for a common. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of just, dies to Doomblade, I guess.
Yeah, it does die to Doomblade.
Dies to Tragic Slip, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Out of these commons, what do you like?
I love Faithless Looting. I think it's a great pick. Tragic Slip can't go wrong. Evolving One. I mean, honestly, a lot of these commons are really good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I lean towards Evolving Wilds just because I like having fixing, but then Tragic Slip and Faithless Looting is a close second, I think.
I think I'd probably lead on Slip, but I am biased towards a couple colors in this format, black being one of them.
Yes.
And then a couple more. We mentioned one uncommon already, the Ghoulish Procession, but this pack actually has 4 more uncommons.
Yeah.
Uncaged Fury, that's 2 in a red, instant. Target creature gets 1/1 and double strike until end of turn. And in case you didn't really understand how to use this, they even show you right on the art. If you target a werewolf with this, like a big trampling 5/5 or something, you probably just win.
It's interesting too that we have the combat tricks changed too, so this card does get slightly better now because it favors attackers.
Yeah, true. This next card, I mentioned there's a few archetypes that I'm, a little biased towards. I'm gonna get on my soapbox right now and probably not get down for the rest of the episode. Travel preparations. It's at uncommon, which is a little disappointing to me personally, given that it's usually at common, but I understand why, because this card is busted. It is so good, so much better than it looks. It's 1 in the green. Put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and then it has flashback for 1 and a white. And a good green-white travel prep humans deck is one of the best things you could be doing in basically any of the formats that this has ever been printed in. It looks a little innocuous because it's like, well, 2 mana for 2 counters. What if I don't have any creatures? What if they have a kill spell? It has flashback. It's up to 2 creatures. You have the option to spread the counters out. You can put 2 counters on one thing, then 2 counters on another thing, or spread 1 counter, then 2 counters, then 1 counter. Or distribute all 4 amongst different creatures. It's almost like an anthem effect that doesn't go away. This card basically always lets you open up attacks. It's going to be really tough to find a card in this pack that I take over travel prep.
It's interesting, yeah, because I'm looking at this card. I'm like, 4 mana for 4 power toughness. Doesn't seem too crazy, but I don't know. You're hyping it up a little bit, and I'm curious to see what it could go with, because like the green-white archetype in this set seems to be like a go-white token idea, so this works perfectly in that.
Yeah. Trust me when I say it's a lot better than it looks. Fury Blade Vampire is next. 1 to red, 1/2 with trample. It's a Vampire Berserker uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, this creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn, making it into a nice 4/2 trample for 2 if you discard a card.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
This asks you to be playing a bunch of Madness cards in your deck. And then, or things with flashback that maybe you're not stoked to discard, but you're like, yeah, I can discard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're activating this every turn, that's really strong.
It's a lot of damage. Yeah. I wish there was more Madness cards in this, because there is a decent amount of discard effects, especially with the blood tokens coming back. But again, like with these remastered sets, you kind of dip your feet to a lot of different pools, and it's kind of hard to focus a lot of these archetypes, but still Fury Blade seems pretty powerful.
Speaking of cards that I'm loath to pass in a draft, Lingering Souls is our last uncommon. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it, but I'll read it anyway. 2 and a white, you make 2 1/1 white spirit creatures with flying, and then it has flashback for 1 in the black. It's a sorcery.
It's a cool card.
I mean, speaking of 4 power and toughness for 4-ish mana with a flashback ability.
4-ish mana. It's 5 mana, but you can't do 4-ish mana.
Sorry, I might cut out there for a second. Lingering Souls is an amazing Magic card. It's way better in limited than you think it is. Just dealing with 4 1/1 flyers. 4 1/1 flyers can just win the game by themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
If your opponent doesn't have a lot of good flying blockers, if they have like a 3/1 flyer, then they're like, all right, what do I do about this? Like, am I going to spend my kill spells on these guys? Lingering Souls is a fantastic limited card. And honestly, I don't know if I would take it over Travel Prep or not.
I was going to say, I'm totally leaning towards Lingering at this point in the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It is like a quote-unquote creature. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, my favorite deck would be the type with both of those cards in it, where I'm doing like Abzan, flashback, green-white stuff. But
yeah.
Speaking of which, our rare, only 1 rare. These are play boosters, right?
I believe so, yeah. So ripped off.
Skursdag High Priest. 1 in the black. It's a 1/2. It's a human cleric at rare, and it has Morbid. Tap this. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. Create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. And of course, it's a Morbid ability, so you can only activate it if a creature died this turn. What do you think of that?
Works really well with Lingering Souls when it creates 2 untapped creatures for you to use.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, it seems good, right? I mean, Morbid's pretty easily to activate. You're going to get a 5/5 out of this. It's a repeatable ability. So
a little better when you have control over the death, if you play a lot of kill spells or if you have a sack outlet or something. But
and honestly, black, so honestly, you're probably going to have a sack outlet.
Yeah. Your opponent definitely gets a little bit of a window to respond to this. Like, you do have to have 2 other creatures that are untapped, and this is a morbid tap ability, so something has to die, and then this has to be untapped, and it doesn't have haste, so you can't do it turn it comes in. There's a lot that has to go right, but when it goes right, I mean, you get a free 5/5, maybe multiple times. That seems sick.
Yeah. What are you leaning towards then overall in this pack? Like Lingering Souls obviously seems pretty powerful. I hate picking a 2-color card. Pack one, pick one, but it's still
that's the beauty of it, though. It's not. It's a 1-color card with like a little, I mean, splash.
It gets worse if you're not going to play both colors, though.
You just toss like 3 swamps and whatever you end up playing. It'll be fine.
Just get the flashback.
Look, there's E-Wilds. And
that's true. Yeah.
I think I would probably eat my vegetables and take the Lingering Souls here, but I think you could make a case for, honestly, like 6 different cards out of this pack. I think you could make a case for the High Priest, the Souls, the Prep, the E-Wilds, the Tragic Slip, or if you're a maniac, the Faithless Looting.
I mean, even Ghoulish Processions is actually a pretty decent card. Like, I'm not against that card either. Obviously, I don't think I'd pick it here, but it's still a good card. I'm going Lingering Souls. That's my pick.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Yeah. Can we just pick it and see what Draft Sim gives us next? I'm just curious. One pack deep. I know this is a pack one, pick one for us, but I am just curious because I've done this.
Why not?
I haven't seen it. Ooh, okay, all right, never mind. Let's not look at that.
Ooh, Burning Vengeance. Oh, Burning Vengeance, a flashback enabler. So you take Burning Vengeance and then you draft 5-color flashback.
There you go.
Magnifique. Although Eaten Alive, that works pretty well with Lingering Souls.
Great.
So does Siege Zombie. Spider Spawning. Kind of a nombo. You want to?
I forgot Spider Spawning was in this, though. I totally forced Spider Spawning at this point.
All right, we got to stop. We got to stop.
Let's just do the whole draft.
This is not a live draft, unfortunately. We're cutting ourselves off. But we will be playing some Innistrad Remastered this weekend at our local game store. I'm kind of excited, but at the same time, we have our reservations about this set.
Yeah. I'm fairly indifferent about it. Like, it hasn't been on my mind. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for Innistrad Remastered to drop. Like we had Ravnica Remastered and Dominaria Remastered up to this point. Both of those sets had some pretty great reprints. In Dominaria, we saw a lot of the tutors get reprinted. In Ravnica, we saw all of the Shocklands. We saw like Cyclonic Rift. So there was value to kind of invest in these sets. And like the value of a set shouldn't be the determining factor for if you play it or not. But obviously, it is something we talk about.
Right?
It doesn't hurt. So this set, there doesn't seem to be anything too crazy. We have like Egger Markov. And I think that's it.
Yeah, there's some of the really cool looking alternate arts, the full art borderless ones.
Yeah,
those will all probably be worth something, but
you have to get collector packs to get those really nice prints. It's hard to justify it. So like if the draft format is great, I'm not going to complain that much because that's why we play Magic, right? Is to play Magic. We'll see.
Yeah, I do like that. This is almost designed like an Innistrad cube. I feel like if I was going to make an Innistrad cube, which I actually have tossed the idea around, I would probably look at this set pretty closely and see what they thought were some of the more major archetypes. Sure. There are some that you're going to have. I mean, you can't call it an Innistrad cube unless blue-black is zombies. Red-green is werewolves. But it does get a little hard at that point because then, I mean, black-red is naturally vampires, but then it's also madness, and then blue-white is often spirits, but sometimes it's flashback, and then you're like, is it just a whole set of typal synergies? I mean, white is usually human-based, so green-white ends up being humans, but then green overlaps with werewolves, and then that kind of works, but then there's no overlap between, like, vampires and werewolves. That doesn't really work.
We also talk about real quick that they didn't bring the daylight cycle into this set, even though,
they didn't.
I don't think there's a single day night card in this set.
Wow, it's just like the old way.
It's
like
I don't think
transform.
There's a single one, and I will talk about this a little later on. I don't think there is a signpost uncommon for werewolves in this set, and I'm curious to know if that's partially the reason why.
That is weird.
It's a hard mechanic to keep track of. It slows games down.
It does, yeah. It's not really fun.
Not fun at all. Like if you bring a day night card to a commander game, you're getting kicked off the table basically because it's a pain to keep track of that whole game. So I understand why they wouldn't reintroduce it in the set, but It is
Wow.
a core mechanic that is not included.
No, you're right. I'm looking over the spoiler right now, and there's the ones from the Eldrazi invasion where
Yeah.
those ones you would pay a certain amount of mana to flip them,
Yep.
and then you do have some of the old templing style. Take like
Yeah.
Crew and Outlaw. I love that card, and that one just says the usual werewolf text at the beginning of each upkeep. If no spells were cast last turn, transform this creature. So I guess they. Oh, you know what? I just spotted Ulrich's Kindred, and I happen to know that this is a sort of red-green signpost uncommon, but it is a mono red card. It's 2 red, 3/2 trample. It's a wolf, not a werewolf, and it says 3 and a green. Target attacking wolf or werewolf gains indestructible until end of turn.
Oh,
but
nice.
there is some weird stuff like this where some of the archetypes have these 2-color vector signposts that are doing exactly what you're always used to, right? But then some of the archetypes have these vector signposts that are only one of the 2 colors, and then it gets a little confusing. It's weird.
Yeah.
They're usually really tight with the symmetry on these, so it's strange that they chose now to divert from that.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, we'll see how it affects the actual gameplay. You know, it might not be that big of a deal, but it is interesting to kind of be aware of it now, especially as a draft podcast who we're analyzing these sets like this.
We just wanted to give you, the listener, a quick rundown of the 10 primary vectors that are showing up in the set. Should you get the chance to go and draft this or do a sealed event, or maybe if there's an RCQ, or I guess there's nothing on Arena, that's a shame. But look, Innistrad has a broad appeal for a reason. These cards are fun, they're evocative, they're flavorful, and if you crack a full art, you're probably going home with a $50 bill. So
let's jump into the Innistrad Remastered 10 archetypes. And we'll start with Azorius. This is your spirit typal set. The first card here we have is Spectral Shepherd. Very alliterative, and I can't talk today.
I can't believe you got that on the first take.
Oh, first take. No, there's no cuts. It's 3 CMC, 2 colorless, 1 white for a 2/2 flying spirit creature. It also has ability that costs 1 blue, 1 colorless. It says return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't know how many ETB abilities there are with spirits, but I guess it's nice to be able to save your creature. You know, it gives you flexibility, I guess.
It's funny that only works with spirits. It can bounce itself, which is kind of cool. So this thing can't die if you have the mana up. You can just return it.
It's not really doing much for you on the board besides that.
Yeah, I guess it's like an infinite blocker. But if you find yourself in that position, you're probably not in good shape. It's funny. I was looking over the blue and white cards. Not a lot of them have major ETBs. A lot of them are humans too. I mean, it's white we're talking about. So some of them do. Some of them have like ETB. I don't know. Drogskull Shieldmate is in this set. That's the 2 and a white 2/3. When it ETBs, other creatures get +0/+1.
Sure.
That's, you know, a cute thing to flicker. Guardian of Pilgrims, that's in here.
There's
Inspiring
like
Captain.
Towering Geist too, which lets you put a card in your hand from the top. But it's 4 CMC, so it's like you're going to invest 4, bounce it for 2, and then recast it. It becomes harder to justify.
If this is a flicker ability, then it gets really sick. But I mean, what are you flickering? Battleground Geist?
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, Battleground Geist too. Like, it's a card I wanted to talk about here. It's a 5 CMC 3/3 spirit with flying, and it's just an anthem effect. It gives +0/+0 to your +1/+0 to your other spirits. Like, I don't know. This isn't a card you're going to want to bounce. Like, I don't get the Spectral Shepherd. Like, I get the spirit archetype, but I don't think this is doing too much for you.
A little suspicious. Battleground Geist, kind of sick with Lingering Souls. If you ever get 4 spirits.
Oh wow, yeah, interesting. Yeah, you just want to play Esper at that point.
Yeah.
But we'll see. This is like, if you really break it down, it's just your stereotypical blue-white flyers. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, probably like see if you open in a bunch of spirit synergy, but otherwise, you know, play good blue and white cards. Blade Stitched Scab is the signpost uncommon for blue-black. This harkens back to one of the best limited archetypes in recent memory, which was blue-black and Midnight Hunt. That deck was forceable, even at a pod where like 4 people were forcing it, and then all 4 of those decks would trophy. It was so good. Mostly because of cards like Blade Stitch Scab. This was blue-black for a 2/3 zombie soldier at uncommon, and it says other zombies you control get +1/+0. Now, this was surrounded by decayed zombies in that set. Cards were really cheap and often had stapled onto them. Create a 2/2 with decayed. It can't block. It gets to attack once, and when it is it when it deals damage, it dies? I
For
forget
decays when it
exactly how
attacks.
decays work.
Decays after attacks.
Yeah, right. So it attacks and then it dies at the end of the combat step, right?
Yep. Doesn't make it to your second main.
So great card in combination with those, because that's making those bodies into 3/2s. They can then attack through all sorts of stuff. I expect this to be good. I mean, there's less decayed stuff in the set relatively. There's just other regular zombie cards. This card will still be great. It's a Lord. It's a 2-mana 2/3 in blue-black. Sure, what's not to like? There's also Crawl from the Cellar. Black, it's a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and put a 1/1 counter on each of up to one target zombie you control. And it has flashback for 3 and a black. Just an archetypical zombie type card. And notably, you get the bonus if you have a zombie laying around, and if you're in black, you probably will. But if you can build towards that, and then you have the zombies really going, that gets even better. But even still, just black to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand with flashback for 4. You'll put that in any black deck.
Definitely, yeah. It's a cheap, recursion. Next for Rakdos, we have Blood Tithe Harvester. This is like a multi-format all-star card too. This saw This see Pioneer play. It saw Standard play. This thing's in everything. It's 3/2 for a black-red vampire. And the ETBs create a blood token. It also has tap it, sacrifice it. Target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So Rakdos is the vampire, typal, but it also kind of touches on multiple things. So it's like blood tokens, madness. I guess that's it. What else do vampires do?
Sometimes a little delirium. I don't know.
Delirium, yeah.
But blood just works really well with madness. It basically gives you a one shot. All right, here's a madness outlet.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's good. And Blood Tithe is just crazy good too. So by itself.
Oh, yeah. Blood Tithe, it's funny. People play Blood Tithe and Pioneer and stuff in decks where there are no other ways to make blood. It's like you just get a Blood Tithe and it just is that good by itself. If you can ever recur it, or if you can ever have other cards that make blood and this kills like a 6/6 or something, it's just like, wow.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. This thing won Draft Chaff Hero from its set for a reason. It is good.
I just hate the artwork on this card. I don't know. His smug demeanor makes me hate him.
Yeah, we could use a new art. I mean, the fact that this card is so popular and sees such ubiquitous play across formats. I mean, a full art might have been appropriate for this one.
I think we're getting some all arts in this set for this card, but it's I believe it's still the main art still.
Oh, did we get old border Blood Tithe?
Oh, that's a good question. I know they had like the special border. I don't know about
old border. Do. I scrolled down. It's the old fashioned like gold with like the crinklies around it. Okay. Oh, that looks awesome.
All right. Also here talking about, we have this common card, Gluttonous Guest. This is a 3 CMC, 2 colorless, 1 black, 1/4 vampire. ETBs creates a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you gain 1 life. Vampires are doing things with blood. That's what they do.
Shocker. I'm a little suspicious, given that they're drawing from so many sets, that this card is, I mean, this card was fine in its home set in Crimson Vow.
Yeah.
And that was when it was surrounded by blood enablers. I mean, you had vampires that ETB to make 2 bloods, and then this thing was sometimes still cut from those decks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. There's going to be a lot less blood token, obviously, in this. I'm curious if the 4 toughness is going to be relevant. Sometimes that matters in sets, especially with Remastered. You're going to have some lower powered cards, so it might be enough to stall out for a little bit. We'll see.
Anyway, I'm really glad you included this card instead of the card we mentioned earlier, the sort of monocolored activated ability signpost uncommon, because Huntmaster of the Fells is an incredibly cool Magic card, and it's a rare in this set. Huntmaster is 2 red-green for a 2/2. When it ETBs or transforms into Huntmaster of the Fells, you get a 2/2 wolf and you gain 2 life. So by itself, 4 mana, 2 2/2s, gain 2 life. Love that. And then it has the usual, if no spells were cast, you flip it. Very cool that they're going with just that design for the werewolves in the set, so you don't have to worry about tracking day, night, and that at the same time.
Oh, so much nicer.
Yeah. And then you get on the backside a Ravager of the Fells. It's a 4/4 with trample. When this creature transforms into Ravager, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature that player or that planeswalker's controller controls. It's a little weird.
It's a little weirdly worded, but you
Was it
get the
always
gist.
worded that way?
I don't remember, but I have fond memories of losing games to this card.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of what werewolves represent in this set.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I hope I pull this because I do love this card.
Yeah, this would be a sick pull for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe a more realistic card to expect to see is Scorned Villager. That's 1 in the green for a 1/1. It's a mana dork. It's a human werewolf. It taps for green. It has the the werewolf flip ability though, and it flips into Moonscarred Werewolf, which has Vigilance. It's a 2/2, and it taps to add green. So a pretty cool little buff to your mana dork.
Yeah.
If you ever happen to pass the turn, it upgrades into a 2/2 Vigilance, and it taps for 2. I could see maybe you play this on turn 2. On turn 3, you pass and cast an instant on their end step, and then hopefully, as long as they only cast 1 spell, on turn 4, you untap with the ability to, spend 6 mana from this, right?
Yeah. No, it's nice. I love mana dorks, especially ones that tap for more mana eventually.
Yeah.
Next, let's take a look at the Selesnya. I should let you talk about this one. This is your baby here, but we have Join the Dance, which is a 1 green, 1 white for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 human creature tokens. It also has flashback for 5, 3 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. This is fine. I mean, this is like a worse spirits, right?
But it's not Lingering Souls.
It's not Lingering Souls, but it's still 2 creatures on the board. This is your stereotypical, Selesnya go wide with a bunch of little guys, and a great card to work with that is Crusader or Odric. I think this used to be an uncommon. Now it's at common. Its power and toughness. Right. Yeah, its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. So this is your go wide payoff. Make something big. Maybe give it trample. I don't know if there's any way in green to give something trample, but that would be the goal.
Yeah. I mean, you're happy with this once it's up to like a 5/5, a 4/4. I mean, when it's a 4/4, you're like 3 mana 4/4 common. Yes.
Cool.
And then when it's anything past that, you're like, yeah, a 3 mana common 5/5, I'm in. And the Join the Dance really does help you get there, right?
Definitely, yeah. There are cards like Wild Hunger too. I'm just looking real quick. That gives target creature +3/+1 and trample to end of turn. So this would be like finisher there.
Nice. Let's chat black white. In Orzhov, we have Flesh Taker. I love the art and the vibe of this card. It's so good.
He's the first official furry in Magic the Gathering.
Hey, let's not discard all the old like Weatherlight Saga. There were a bunch of cat people on that.
No, but those were cat people. This is a human dressed as an animal. There's a difference.
Good point.
For the viewers,
a human assassin.
Yeah, listening, it's a human assassin. He's got like a ton of butcher knives and stuff, but he's also wearing a cow head. So he's a furry. That's all. You can continue with your synopsis of the set.
Love the vibe of the art on this, furry or not. White black for a 2/2 human assassin at uncommon. It says whenever you sacrifice another creature, you gain 1 life and scry 1. And of course, it says pay 1, sacrifice another creature. This creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It's basically payoff and enabler all rolled into 1. And then it also has the upside of caring about other sacrifices that happen.
Definitely. I have fond memories of playing this in pre-release. It's one of those cards where if your opponent has enough creatures on board, you kind of have to block this, or they could just kind of win out of nowhere. They could just sacrifice their board, and this thing becomes a 10/10.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that Nantuko husk scary factor. Also, is there a blood artist in this set?
There is a blood artist. There's blood artist. There's morbid opportunist. There's a lot of great sacrifice payoffs in this set.
Morbid opportunist.
Yes. And we have Meat Hook Massacre too. Don't forget.
Oh, very cool. Now, obviously, in black white, you're going to want some ways to make sure that when your creatures die, you get an extra body to pay off and sacrifice again, right? Try Butcher Ghoul, 1 in the black, 1/1. It's a zombie with Undying. Simple as that. And Undying, if you're not familiar, says when this creature dies, if it had no 1/1 counters on it, return to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it. Now, in some of the old sets, there were ways to remove that counter, so then you could keep this thing going. I'm not expecting to see that in this set, but I could see maybe you bounce it back to your hand somehow, or you could find ways to abuse Undying a little bit. But even still, even if this is just a 2 mana 1/1 that dies into a 2/2, that is exactly what the black-white vector is looking for.
Definitely, yep. Next, let's take a look at blue-red. I mean, again, we have a lot of classic archetypes here. This is going to be your non-creature instants and sorceries kind of sling. We have Wandering Mind, a 3 CMC, 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 red for a 2/1 flying horror. It says when this creature enters, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, put it into your hand, and then put the rest of them in the bottom of your library in a random order. Fine, it's cool. Yeah, it's not doing too much for you. It's helping you dig a little deeper for those cards that hopefully pay off.
Yeah, 6 is a lot of cards.
It is a lot, especially in limited when your deck's only 40. You're looking at a nice chunk of that.
Hard to miss. This may as well, like, it's almost like one of those what's that one card on Arena? It was an alchemy specific one that says like tutor for the top, like
I was gonna say, I don't know any
of your deck.
Okay, yeah. That's basically what this feels like at this point now.
Yeah.
And then also I like to mention Faithless Looting because it's one of my favorite cards. We talked about this already. Draw 2, discard 2, and then it has flashback, all for 1 mana. But this works really well because you have cards in the set like Thermo Alchemist. Yes, which you tap, ping your opponent for 1, it untaps whenever you cast an instance or sorcery. You kind of repeat that effect enough. It's fun.
Blue Red is definitely your mad scientist vector. Definitely a lot of flashback stuff. And as we mentioned before, Burning Vengeance in this set, sort of like a limited vector by itself, like as a card. If you open 2 of those in your sealed pool, you just want to make like the flashback deck, like a flashback control deck, and Wandering Mind slots right in.
Definitely.
Black green Morbid. We already sort of talked about Tragic Slip. Morbid was technically a vector in Foundations, although it didn't really work. Morbid has always had this problem where by the time creatures have died, mana has already been spent, combat already happened. So you need to be really careful and thoughtful about how this happens, unless you have like a free sack outlet. Plus, if you have a creature that has like a Morbid ability, your opponent, if it's like a recurring one, might even see it coming and they might be able to do something about it. Now, the main vector for this is Grizzly Ghoul. 2 black-green for a 4/3 trample. It's a zombie bear at uncommon. And it says this creature enters with a 1/1 counter for each creature that died this turn. This card is cool. It's a zombie bear. It looks metal. Looks awesome. But this one never really worked in its home set. And you could try. You could have a turn where like 3 creatures trade off in combat, and then it's a 7/6 trample for 4, and you're like, wow, I really did it. But by the time that's happening in the game, it's like turn 8 or 9. When you are able to set this up to be good, the fact that it only costs you 4 mana is no longer impressive.
No, definitely. There's a lot of setup required. Yeah, like you're saying, like the board's usually pretty established already for Morbid to be relevant.
Yeah. Like what would have to happen for this to come in with 2 counters on turn 4? I guess you attack with a creature and they trade with yours, and then it comes in 2 counters. Like that's something, right? That's a 4 mana 6/5, but that is the absolute ceiling. What if your opponent tapped out to play, I don't know, some instant or sorcery or something, or they countered your 3-drop? Then you look at this and you're like, all right, 4 mana 4/3 trample. It's whatever.
It's too situational to be really, consistent. It's a cool card. Like I love the art. Like I wish it was better. But
I mean, let's not bury the lead here. We know what people actually want to do in black green, right? They want to spawn some spiders. Spider spawning is that uncommon. 4 to green. Make a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach for each creature card in a graveyard, and then it has flashback. For 6 and a black, you could put 2 spider spawnings, 21 creatures, and then a bunch of random lands into a deck, and you've got a sick deck. I mean, ideally, you're also finding some ways to self-mill, maybe some graveyard recursion, some like, I don't know, grapple with the past style cards. But spider spawning 1/2 creatures with reach, these little spiders, similar to how we mentioned those counters are seemingly innocuous, 1/2 reach spiders are so good. Like, imagine that you have a 3/3 flyer and that your opponent casts a spider spawning to make 5. When you attack with your 3/3 spider, you know how many spiders, let me say this again. When you attack with your 3/3 flyer into 5 1/2s with reach, you know how many you get to kill?
1.
1.
That's how mad.
It's insane.
No, the spider spawning was like the original Innistrad like draft archetype. Like this is what you wanted to play. We did an event together. There was an Innistrad draft, like OG Innistrad. I remember the whole table just talking about spider spawning. Like that's how you play that format.
Yeah.
So it's great that it's back here. I think it represents the set really well, and I'm excited to force spiders just to play this card.
I would not be surprised if everyone who opens this is stoked about it.
Definitely. All right, next we get to talk about my favorite archetype overall, Boros. And this is a Boros combat kind of style, like classic. First, we have Markov Waltzer. He is a Force MC, 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 white for a 1/3. Has flying haste, and it is a vampire. It also says at the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 2 target creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. I wish we had Heroic in the set because this would be amazing.
Yeah, with the mice. Oh wow.
With the mice, yeah. But like again, like this is your classic Boros combat matters archetype. You're attacking with hasty creatures. You're going to try to pump your board a little bit, win as fast as you can. It is what it is. That's how you play Boros.
Yeah.
And you have cards like, again, like Village Messenger. It's just a 1 mana, 1/1 haste. I forget what it flips into. I put it on here. I probably should have put the other side if I was going to talk about it, but you get the point.
Guess. I want to say it's a 2/2 menace.
It is a 2/2. Yeah, it is a 2/2 menace. Oh, did you know that, or did you just guess on that?
I have an old 60 card casual werewolf deck, and I remember it has one of these in it, and I feel like it was a menace, but
it is, yeah. Sure. I mean, it's 1 mana 2/2 menace isn't too bad, especially yeah. Seems pretty good. But yeah, this is just your win as fast as you can, beat down your opponent thing.
Mm-hmm. It is. The play pattern with Messenger is really cool. If you have it on your turn 1 and you're on the play, right? So you play it, you swing in for 1 with haste. They go, oh no, I don't have a 1-drop. So then on your turn, when they pass the turn after not playing a 1-drop, it's immediately that 2/2 menace. Yep. And then as long as both players play a spell each turn, then you just got a free 2/2 menace haste, basically.
Yeah, you can hit them a bunch with that too, because the menace is pretty relevant at that point.
Finally, blue-green, which historically has struggled sometimes on Innistrad to find what it's doing. We have Vile Spawn Spider. This card is good. Green-blue for a 2/3 reach. It's a spider. This is actually a Draft Chaff Cube feature, along with many of these other cards we mentioned, including Spider Spawning. But Vile Spawn Spider is a 2/3 reach for 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. And then it has 2 green-blue, tap, sack it, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. Not insects with flying. If you remember, there was another spider from not too long ago that did something very similar. But this one, still good, you know? Yeah. If this taps, sacks, makes like 6, it does only happen at sorcery speed, which the other recent spider was not. This one is, so you can't like do the block and sack trick, but I mean, it's still fine.
Yeah, it's again, yeah, like you're saying, like I find this archetype to be the least put together. It's like a graveyard matters type of archetype, but like so is everything on Innistrad, you know.
Yeah, it's like a little put creatures in the graveyard. It's a little bit of flashback. It's maybe a little delirium. I don't know. Moldgraph Millipede is trying to play to the same vector. 4 and a green for a 2/2. When this creature enters, mill 3 cards, then put a 1/1 counter on this creature for each creature card in your graveyard. So again, critical mass of creatures will help. I'm not stoked about blue-green, to be honest.
No, me neither. There's things I want to play in this, and this isn't one of them.
This is not one.
Not one. No.
No one's begging to go back to Innistrad for the blue-green deck. Although
my Vile Spawn Spider,
yeah. We should mention that the best versions of the spider spawning deck in the original form and in some good cubes, such as the Draft Chaff Cube, blue-green and blue-black sort of form like a Sultai spider spawning deck, where that does end up being the optimal version because you get cards that let you cycle the spider spawning back into your deck and basically never be able to mill out.
Oh, nice.
That was like a big part of it. The names of the cards escape me, but we should give blue-green a little bit of credit. It can play a role in spider spawning decks. Having intentionally not looked over the full spoiler, I want to have a little bit of surprise when I go in and open some packs and, you know, be excited by what I see. Maybe those cards are in this set. Maybe they're not. Hopefully they are. So do we care about this? Now that we've discussed all these vectors, I mean, it does feel like going and seeing an old friend.
Yeah, and that's how these remastered sets have felt in the past. You know, it's nice to see some of your favorite cards. Um, they do all feel kind of cube-like. Like you put that, and I think that's a great way to explain them because they are like an amalgamation of all, all the Innistrad sets. They were all the remastered or all the Ravnica sets, and it was nice to visit those. The question is, does it work as a draft format now? Is it gonna be fun? We briefly talked about the monetary value of this set, which doesn't seem to be too great, but again, like if the draft format is fun and you can enjoy it, it doesn't really matter to me. So this Saturday is going to be the test if this set really is fun. Is it worth it?
Might be our first and last draft.
Yes. Like we did a Ravnica remastered together last year, and honestly, I couldn't tell you a single card I opened in that, and I can't tell you how the event
Me
was.
neither.
But I opened some cool cards. Like I got a Cyclonic Rift in those packs, and there was the Shocklands, and who knows? But what if I open in this? It's not going to be like anything I'm going to be too excited about. Is really what it comes down to.
What are some cards that you would be pretty excited to see, at least in the moment, if not a year later?
Yeah. So, Angel Fire Ignition.
That's in the set.
Oh, dude, I don't want to spoil too much for you, but this is probably one of I love.
This is such a you card, dude.
So it's a sorcery. It's a 3 CMC sorcery. It's 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 white. It says put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. It gains vigilance, trample, lifelink, indestructible, and haste until end of turn.
Hot.
And it has flashback for 4. Do it all over again. I love these types of cards. I love keyword soup. I love this. I'm so excited. I hope I get to open one of these.
I bet you wish that was you riding that griff or whatever.
Yeah, because griffs are basically birds, so
like bird horse things. Yeah. Angel of Fire Ignition is an awesome card. You've definitely drafted it in the Draft Chaff cube before, right?
Oh, I have to. Yeah, I won one of the cubes with the Boros.
I'm pretty sure it was in that deck, right?
Great heroic card. So a card that I love these types of cards. Like they're pretty bad in limited unless you can really make them go off. Necro Duality. So this is a 4 CMC. It's a mythic. It's 3 colorless and a blue for an enchantment. It says whenever a non-token zombie you control enters, create a token that's a copy of that. I love these types of effects. We had something like this in Outlaws. It was 4 Outlaws. It was an Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I think it duplicated your Outlaws. Something like that. Whatever. It's going to give you more. But the issue with these types of cards is you kind of have to be ahead already because you're going to be doing 4 mana for nothing. And then hope your next turn it really pops off. But, I love these type of effects. I hope I get to at least try and play it. It would be great to copy the Signpost Uncommon, duplicate your Anthem effects.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be pretty sick.
And then quickly, I mean, we talked about spider spawning already. Who's not excited for spider spawning?
No.
How about you? What kind of cards are you looking forward to in this set?
I mentioned a couple already. The Travel Prep is definitely one. I have my Clues that I love Clues. Clues are one of my favorite vectors of all time. So when I saw the Tireless Tracker and Thraben Inspector in here, if I open those, I'll be playing them. Like there's not a world in which I open Tireless Tracker and it doesn't make my deck. I just love playing with those cards. But what people might be less familiar with is one of the old vector uncommons for Clues called Ulvenwald Mysteries. It's 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. And then whenever you sack a clue, you make a 1/1 white human soldier creature token.
Oh, wow.
This is a really cool card.
No, it's definitely like right up your alley too. So is white green the clue archetype sub theme? Like where do clues fit in?
It's funny, they've messed around with clues and put them in different places over the years, but originally in Innistrad, clues were green-white, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. When you think of a clue, I picture like an Azorius almost something, because I think we had detectives in my head related to clues.
They started to push into blue. There may have been 1 or 2 spirit payoffs that were also clue payoffs, but it was in Murders that they really started to expand in other colors. But yeah, it was Ulvenwald Mysteries, and there was a blue. What was it called? Stensia something maybe. There was a blue enchantment that also was like a clue payoff.
Yeah.
I think it was whenever you're, I don't know, if you deal damage to an opponent, you get a clue or something. It was one
It
of those
sounds
sort
something.
of things.
Yeah.
But maybe the card that I want to open most is actually sort of cheating. It's 2 cards. I would absolutely flip if I got to open my beloved Gisela and Bruna. And I think maybe the ultimate goal of one of these events would be to meld the 2 together. I've done it before.
Ooh.
I've done it in limited before. That's all I'll say.
This specific meld or a meld in general, you're saying?
I've done Brizella in limited.
Oh,
I think I did
wow.
it like once.
Okay. Maybe this weekend again, we'll see.
I love me some Angels. I remember when these cards got spoiled. This was, I think, ages ago. Might have been when we were in high school even. I remember Zach, prior host for those listening, you know, texting me and going like, "Screw you, dude. Your Angels got like narked by
They get all
Emmy."
drazied.
And this was part of the reveal. We didn't know that Emrakul was coming to Innistrad. It wasn't part of like the announcement. There were hints in the prior set that Nahiri was up to something, and there were actual clues that Emrakul was coming, but it wasn't until the actual set art and like cards got spoiled themselves that it was like, oh, Nahiri brought Emrakul to Innistrad as revenge against Sorin for not being there to help fight them off from her home plane. So I remember realizing in real time, people like were putting together words on the clues to piece together the phrase, "Remember they came as 3." That sort of stuff was so sick. And then the payoff of seeing my beloved Angels turned into Eldrazi horrors, that's an experience I can't forget. So I would love to open a Gisela.
Definitely. Awesome, man.
Let's jump into our Teferi Tibble before we wrap things up. What's been going on with your week, dude? What's up?
So I'll start with my thorn here. We're entering the busy birthday season for my family. So weirdly, majority of my family is born in February, which is like the shortest month. I'm born in February. Sister, my stepfather, my uncle, grandfather, like it's just a lot. And we're doing like parties and get-togethers, and it just feels like every weekend's busy. And now that we have a baby, it's like if everything feels more exhausting. So it's great to be with family, but it's also exhausting to be with family. So it's just that time of year for me. But Rose, though, me and my family, we're planning a vacation, which I'm looking forward to. This will be the first one with our daughter. I'm curious to know how it's going to go. We're looking to go to Rhode Island, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a little something different. I've never actually been. There's an area called like Narragansett. It's like a nice coastal town. So quiet little getaway. Look at some birds. Play on the ocean. Should be nice.
I had a feeling birds would come in at some point here.
It's always birds, Ben. It's always birds. How about you, man? How's your week been?
Pretty good. Been a fun week at school. I'm teaching a unit that I really like called Energy. Get to analyze some fun things. I had my students analyze the speed you'd have to move your hand to cook a chicken fully through.
Well,
look, assuming that the speed, well, here's the issue. We did a calculation where the energy converted to the internal heating would be distributed evenly across the chicken in your hand. The speed they found for that was around 900 meters per second.
Okay. All right. So I'll just have to do some arm stretches first.
Yeah. Like 3 times the speed of sound. Pretty easy.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. I'm pretty pumped to just play some Paper Magic this weekend. I haven't seen you in real life in a while.
Oh wow, I feel like a jerk because I didn't put that as my rose.
Yeah, that's right. I'm playing that card. I'm playing that card, and my birthday's in February too. Not that anyone cares.
That's true. You are. You're the end of February though, right? I'm the beginning of February.
My Tibble, little embarrassing. It started as Teferi. I did really well on the first day of the Arena Open. I got there on my second try. I had an awesome draft deck. It had 2 Blood Tithe Harvesters and multiple ways to recur them, and 2 Elder Dragons. I had a Kolagon and a Silumgar. Wow. And that deck, I mean, I probably could have played 15 more matches and not lost. Like, that deck was one of the best decks I've drafted in a long time.
Nice.
So I make day 2. I sit down 9 a.m. I draft a red-white heroic Boros beatdown deck, and it goes great. I got lucky. My draws were great. I didn't mulligan once. I queued into an opponent that they made day 2, but their deck was just non-functional, and they scooped really early, and I felt a little bad about that one. But hey,
Yeah,
it's the Open. You take
a
those.
win's a win.
Yeah. So it was one of the easiest times I've had playing an Open ever. So I'm feeling really good, and I've got all 4 wins. So I'm going into the second money draft with a loss to give, right? So I'm like, surely I'm not going to owe 2 here. That's the only way I walk away with nothing, not even any digital coins or something. I got paired into, if you can believe, a better version of the black-red deck that I used to day 2.
Oof.
They also had Dragon Lords. They also had a Storm Breath Dragon, which I was playing red-white. I actually wound up in red-white again. It was a slightly worse version, but it was still very good. But Storm Breath Dragon, Mythic 4/4 Flying Haste Pro White Dragon.
Hard to deal with.
Hard to deal with. That one, we had some great games, but their deck was really good, and I started mulliganing a bunch. I got some rough draws, just ripping multiple lands in a row. I'm like, all right, first match, whatever. Second match, I queue into Gates. My opponent's on 5-color Gates. Yeah, 5-color Gates, which I'm like, a slow deck versus red-white heroic? All right, let me at them. They played an extremely tight game. They had every gate payoff. They had the life gain one. They had the Gates Ablaze. They had the Gate Colossus, which they kept seeming to slam on turn 5. And when you're trying to attack a 7/7 or 8/8 or whatever that thing is on turn 5 is not the best. But what really got me, the sleeper card that they seem to always have on turn 2 was Philagi Archaeologist. It's 1 the blue for a 0/3. You mill 3 cards. And you put a non-creature spell into your hand, and if you whiff, you put a counter on it. I think it was from Brothers War.
Okay.
So this thing often came down as an 0/3 or a 1/4. And they just had a lot of good cheap removal.
Stall you out a little bit.
They stalled me out. They got to, resolve their Gates Ablaze, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of fun. I think I played as best as I could, and I think I drafted as best as I could, but that made it all the more tilting that I just hit a brick wall.
The Gates deck of all decks too, man. That's got to be like the burn right there.
It was, and it sucked because I felt pretty good going into it. I was like, wow, I'm on a roll. But you know what? I had been getting lucky, and I'd been playing well, and I played well, but then I didn't get lucky. And you know what? That happens sometimes.
Yep. You still made it pretty far. You definitely. I mean, you're a good player. You made it to that point. So
thanks.
But you have a lot of horror stories with arenas. Or with these opens lately. It feels
it's been a while since I've cashed, and one of these days, the stars just have to align a little better than they did this time.
It's going to be Aether Drift. I believe in you.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, thanks for listening. Happy drafting out there. Let us know if you do an Innistrad Remastered seal. Send us your sealed pool. Toss in the Discord. We'll certainly send ours, and hopefully you can take it down, open a serialized card or something. Let us know. Yeah. Let us know in the Discord. Hop in there if you're not already. And patrons, thank you again as always. If you're interested in supporting this nonsense, hop on over to Patreon. Thanks. Have a great week, and happy drafting. Okay. We almost did the episode on this. I'm actually sort of glad we didn't, because it's a little negative,
Yeah, I agree. I think we could do an episode about it. Like a full, maybe discussing not exactly this topic, but
yeah.
This has been an interesting story.
So, one of the big stories on Magic Twitter this week was related to something that happened at GP Atlanta or Spotlight Atlanta, whatever. It sounded like maybe day 2 or pretty far along in the event. This player, Julian Corfine, they put up this long blog post about something that happened during extra turns during match 3, or game 3 of a match. Well, they were playing against another Magic content creator who her name is Nicole Dubin. I don't know how it's pronounced actually, but and I do want to preface this by saying that Nicole is openly trans and uses she/her pronouns, and people have attacked her for her actions that we're about to describe on the basis of her being trans, and have alluded to the fact that in some way transness makes you a bad person. So let's just unequivocally say that trans rights are human rights, and if you are attacking someone for being trans on the basis of them being trans, just turn off our show and don't come back.
Definitely. And it's irrelevant to this story at hand. Like, it has nothing to do with what unfolded.
Now, that being said, anyone regardless of sex or gender identity can be a bit of a jerk sometimes.
Yes.
And maybe it's unfortunate that because she's trans that this story happened to blow up. But I mean, there have been other stories of cheating players that have blown up too, so I don't really feel that weird about talking about it. But maybe this one was the most egregious that I've heard in a long time, because this brought a lot of attention to the way that judging works. And I actually found the discussion around the way that Magic judging works to be much more interesting than the actual like cheating story or whatever. But here's the context. So basically, the long and short of it is this player, Nicole, attempted to spend 7 mana worth of spells and only tap 6 mana worth of lands.
Yes.
That's the context, is that it was a fairies deck and they were doing stuff on upkeep, and the details don't matter that much. But
blue needs counter spells. That's
yeah,
basically what it comes down to.
Yeah. And this was like a game-winning play where she had like kind of fumbled and maybe was unclear about how she tapped her lands. And I recommend you go and read the full thing on Twitter if you're interested. And I think she actually posted a response on Blue Sky. Anyway, the interesting part of all this was that the judge ruling was that because enough time had passed, the land that should be tapped couldn't be tapped. And the context in game was that had that land been tapped, then that would leave her a mana short of casting the spell that would win the game.
Yep.
And the judges ruled that because enough actions had already been taken, even though both players agreed between themselves that, oh, the player missed this, that land should be tapped because it was used to cast this hopeless nightmare. Both players agreed that that land should be tapped, but the official judge ruling that got appealed all the way up to the head judge was that too many game actions had transpired and that that land could not be tapped anymore. And that the game would proceed, like she got a warning or whatever, but it would proceed with that land untapped, giving her the 3 open mana she needed to then cast the thing and win the game. And this is where it gets messy, right? So the question is, I wouldn't expect you or I to hopefully ever wind up in this position in the first place. But let's say a judge somehow ruled in this way for you. Some people argue that the morally correct thing for you to do is concede. What do you think about that?
I mean, the thing is, in that scenario, yes, it's so tough because this is a sanctioned event. This is like there's money involved. Like this is no longer just casual Magic. Like I'm a casual Magic player. Obviously, I would say yes, let's concede. Like I screwed up. You know, I think the situation then becomes like, was it an intentional cheat? Was it a true accidental cheat? Mm-hmm. Like now that the judge is on your side, it's an official ruling, so you have less of an incentive to concede because like, hey, this official Magic, the judge said so. You know. In like pre-releases, which are obviously the most casual format of Magic, I've conceded matches where I've realized, hey, I accidentally cheated. Like this, like things just happen in Magic, obviously. You know?
Yeah, totally.
I would concede, yeah, but like obviously I've never been to this level of gameplay before where like, you know, you have prizes and
well, yeah, what if instead, what if the judge ruled this and then I don't know what the actual prize for this match is, but let's say the prize for winning this match was like $1,000.
Yeah.
Would you still concede?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, well, especially now that it's like blown up. Like you're like, like Magic it's a big game, but it's a small community, and like now, like Nicole's name is going to be kind of like lambasted and kind of like always synonymous with this scandal, and it's going to be kind of hard to like remove that from yourself. So it's like it's one game and it's like one match. Is it worth kind of like this lifelong title at this point? Yeah. How about you? Like, what would you do in this situation? I think we'd be in a similar boat where we would both want to do the right thing.
I think it's correct to concede, but I could also totally understand how someone who I mean, supposedly there was other contexts where like
Yeah.
a large crowd had gathered because they were 15 minutes over. It was the only match still going. There were
And
like
there's pressure.
judges kind of watching. Yeah, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure, and humans, perform well under pressure often, but sometimes make silly mistakes under pressure. And you could sometimes have like a lapse in maybe what you might consider to be your typical morals under
Sure.
pressure. But I think maybe also you could argue that your true character is revealed in these sort of situations.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever been in quite a similar situation, but I've definitely had moments where there have been things where like my opponent has forgotten to change my life total or something.
Yeah.
And even at like a comp REL, I've been in situations where like I've reminded my opponent like, oh no, I'm actually at 1 when they thought I was at like 5 or something.
Yeah. Because that's the game. Like we're here to play the game, Obviously people want to win, but like I don't know. I want to say like I've only read Julian's side of this story, and the way he paints the picture, it was a nicely written article. I got to say, he paints it in a negative light where I feel like he does accuse Nicole of like purposely doing this. I haven't read any responses from Nicole. I don't know where she stands on this. Is she like? She admitted to it, right? Like as an accident, or was it purposeful on her end?
I don't remember her response. I read it like 5 a.m. right when I woke up.
Sure,
I gotta pull back
I'm just
up again.
Curious because like if she's like aware of like, oh, this was an accident, and the only reason I continued with it was because it's the judge call, then the question opens like, is judging correct in Magic? Like, is this the actual route that we should be going down?
From the comments, it sounded like other people were also like, the other people, I mean, the crowd had formed. Other people were hearing this judge call and then screaming at the judges about it.
Yeah, well, that's where it seems
not
like
a great response either.
No.
But at the same time,
but the judge call seems
into question.
Yeah,
like I can understand why the judge had to make this call. They were probably adhering to some very strict order of resolving a messed up game state in Magic. They probably didn't have the authority even to do this, but I could totally see that calling into question the logistics of the judge procedure, where maybe if both players agree that the thing should be different, there might want to be an appeals channel wherein that thing could then be changed in that way.
That's a good. I like that. That's a good point there. Yeah.
So. But outside of that, like, I don't know. Would you rather be playing the game and losing, or would you rather be, I don't know,
winning and cheating?
Winning and cheating, like.
All right, this weekend, how about this? I'll cheat in every match, and you play fairly, and we'll see who goes 3-0 and who feels better in the end.
Yeah, we'll go take a lie detector test afterwards or something.
No, it's Magic. Like we're playing the game to play the game. Like if your intention, obviously your intention is going to be to win, but if your intention is only to win, you're never going to have fun, and you're going to be let down a lot, and you're going to end up like this. So I don't know. I would never do this. I would forfeit in this scenario. I think I say now as opposed to we can hem and haw about it all we want. We haven't never been at this level of Magic before.